That is what monopolists will do. They're going to put MR equal to MC, and they're going to find the profit maximizing quantity, and they're going to set the price. Good. That's what monopolist does. And in the process, they're going to cost the consumers. So the consumer benefit surplus before was this. That's the benefit of competition. Now it becomes this. The consumer loses A and C. That's a loss by the consumer. The consumer is never going to benefit from monopoly. They're going to lose on both fronts. They pay a higher price and they buy less. Right? Okay. Producer surplus before was this. That's before. Now it becomes this. So producer is going to gain A. That's a transfer of surplus. But loses B. That's a surplus transfer from the consumer to producer through high prices. Right? Okay, so we know the consumer is going to lose. What about producer? Can producer lose? Is it more than 0? Less than 0, or depends? Can A be less than D? The monopolists, they're not going to do it if they lose. Right? Monopolists. With a single producer, they can choose any point on the demand. They choose a point that benefits them. So you can't have a monopoly that's losing money, right? They're not going to operate. As a result, this will be. So it's not controversial. This is a real gain. Otherwise, why would you choose that over just a competition? Right? Okay. Anyway, but there will be social costs, i.e. deadweight loss, or you can say loss in efficiency, which is equal to C and D loss. Right? So monopoly is not good. It leads to welfare loss. Right? Monopoly is not good. It leads to welfare cost. This price is too high. It leads to welfare loss. This is also welfare loss. So the government should come in and regulate the monopolies, push the price down. The government normally comes, try to regulate the monopolists if they can, push the price lower than what the monopolist wants to charge. Right? Their goal should be this point. That's the goal. The goal should be competitive outcome, but in the real world, you really don't know what the demand is, you don't know what the marginal cost is. The only thing you see is what the monopolist charges. So you're just making it up. Not knowing what the perfect competition is, you're worried about bypassing it. If you bypass it, set the price too low, you will end up with shortage. So what do you do? Normally set a bit below, not much, say here. So you never end up with efficient one, but you reduce the loss. smaller. So even if you see a regulated monopolist, if you're not perfectly regulated, which is very hard to do, you will end up with small deadweight loss but not zero deadweight loss. Right? Make sense? Okay, anyway. But the government tried to regulate the monopolists if they can. Sometimes they can't, but if they can, they try to regulate it. Say that Ozempic was charging $10,000 per dose, the government came in, negotiated lower price. Now it's like $350, but still much higher than perfect endocrine. If you would have allowed for generic drugs, it would be much lower than that, right? So you reduce the deadweight loss, but not to zero. Anyway, okay, that is it. Next up, the monopolies we talked about so far, that is what we call standard monopolies. Standard monopolies is when perfect competition is possible. That's the idea up to this point. You can have perfect competition. So for a monopoly to happen, there must be some type of barrier to entry. There must be a law preventing others from coming in, or somehow the firm created technology others can copy, stuff like that. So in a standard monopoly, which we covered so far, perfect competition is possible. It just doesn't happen because of barrier to entry. So cost-wise, we're talking about this part of the cost, i.e. when the index is characterized by decreasing return to scale. But in that case, if demand hits the marginal cost, it will be above average cost. So competition is possible. If firms compete, you still end up with a profitable outcome, at least in the short run. In the long run, firms come in and drive the price down further. But in the short run, you can end up with competition because the marginal cost is higher than the average cost. So why you don't have it? Because others can come in. We call that standard monopoly, which requires barrier to entry. In a natural monopoly, the index is characterized by increasing return to scale, i.e. the average cost is falling and the marginal cost is pushing it down. That you are on this side of the cost structure. That is where demand hit the marginal cost. So perfect competition will lead to loss if the marginal cost is below the average cost. But that is a case where competition is not possible. If firms compete, they all lose money. If they all lose money, what will happen to losers? They will leave the market. There will be one standing that will like monopoly now. Act like a monopolist. That is natural monopoly because it happens over time, naturally through losers leaving the market. So if the index is characterized by increasing return to scale, there is no barrier to entry. Firms don't stay in the market because if they do, they lose money. Right? So the process becomes like this. This is the average cost, that's the marginal cost. This is increasing return to scale. That's where demand hit the marginal cost. So now perfect competition leads to losses. This is perfect competition outcome. That's the price, which is below the average cost. So that becomes loss. Perfect competition is not possible here. The losers will leave the market. The only one standing now act like a monopolist. Here is a monopolist. We call that natural monopolist. That is the margin revenue. That's the marginal cost. They sell this quantity at this price. And they generate tons of profit. But the process from perfect competition to monopoly happens naturally over time by losers voluntarily leaving the market. There is no barrier to entry, but you cannot stay in the market because you lose money. That is when the industry is characterized by increasing return to scale. Increasing return to scale happens when the industry requires giant initial fixed costs to start the business. That is hydro. In Ontario, hydro is natural monopoly. There's one hydro. Why there is no more than one? Because others, if they come in, they will lose money. The market is not big enough for it. The price will be so low, does not cover the cost. Right? Over time, others probably have tried to compete, they all lost money, left the market. Right? The one standing now is a monopoly, act exactly like monopolies. When the government comes in now, try to regulate it. They try to push down the price. How far do they go? If the government comes and regulates it, how far do they push the price down? Do they push it all the way into perfect competition? No. If you push it below this point, at the average cost, the firm will lose money. So the best you can do is regulate all the way to this point. So you can never achieve perfect competition. As a result, there is always deadweight loss. Even if you perfectly regulate it, you still have welfare loss. Because perfect competition is not possible. You lead to losses. Right? So the best case scenario regulated natural monopoly still have deadweight loss. The only efficient outcome is perfect competition, but it's not feasible, it's not sustainable. The government doesn't even try. All right? Make sense? So the second best, which is this point, will have a lower deadweight loss, but not zero deadweight loss. The deadweight loss post regulation becomes this way. You produce less than perfect competition, but perfect competition is not sustainable. Everyone agrees with it. Okay. In Canada, at least in Ontario, hydro is national monopoly. You see one firm. What about in US? Is it national monopoly there too? No, you have many hydros in US. But the market is far bigger. If the market is far bigger, you will bypass the optimal scale. You go to the other side of the cost structure. You're not going to end up with natural monopoly then. So in US, you don't have one firm producing hydro because the market is so big, right? In Canada, you have just one firm producing. At least in Ontario, you have one firm. In Ontario, the government regulates the hydro by setting the price equal to the average cost. You cannot set it equal to the marginal cost. That is not sustainable. This is not sustainable. So your goal is not this point. It is this point. So to regulate it, you basically ask hydro to give you cost of production. Then you can find out how many kilowatts hydro sells. That will become the average cost. You set the price equal to it. That's the regulated hydro in Canada. What is your annual cost, right? You know how many they produce, you get the average cost, and you set it equal to that. As a result, there will be no economic profit. When I say no economic profit, that basically means you pay the labor, you pay the capital, nothing is left. It's not like the labor is not paid well, it's not like the capital is not paid well. So Hydro Ontario, which is now part of a company, pays well to the capital owners. They pay 13%, 10-12% in dividend. That's part of their cost. So it's not like bare minimum. You pay the capital, whatever others pay, you pay the labor, what others pay, nothing is left. That's the way it's regulated. So if you are hydro, do you have incentive to reduce your cost? There is no incentive because whatever the cost is, you will end up with consumers paying the price of it, right? So what is the reason for hydro to be efficient? No reason. They may buy equipment they don't need. They claim they need it. They may buy top-notch computers they don't need. They claim they need it. They may pay the labor too much. Well, by not negotiating strongly with them. That's the story there. Any national monopoly automatically becomes inefficient because there's no incentive to actually bring down the cost. The consumers will pay the price, whatever the price is. Anyway, if you would have checked sunshine list, I said it many times, if you would have checked the sunshine list before hydro, what's the name of hydro? Alcatel? they call it something now. It's a private company now. It used to be semi-government owned. So it used to be on the sunshine list. The sunshine list is whoever make more than 100,000 and somehow paid by the government. So it's still, they used to be top of the list. The engineers at Hydro pays like $500,000, $1 million, crazy money. Probably never get it elsewhere. Why? Because no reason to be efficient. Consumers will pay the price. Don't negotiate very strong with them, right? You may buy top-notch computers, work with top-notch reactor you don't need, drive up the cost, at the end the consumer will pay. So very little reason to be efficient for them. Don't expect national monopoly to be efficient. Because they know they're not going to get any profit, no profit. They know whatever it costs for labor and capital is will be paid by consumers. No reason to be efficient. Anyway. Okay, so let's see what we have here. We did 4 characteristics for monopoly last session. You should know all of them. 1, margin revenue is less than the price. Right? 2, monopolies will not produce on inelastic part of demand. 3, monopolies does not have supply. 4, we tax monopolists, they may not share the tax. The price may go up by more than the tax. Those are 4. Number 5, the difference between natural and standard monopoly. What's the primary difference? What's the main difference between the two? The main difference that drives everything is in a standard monopoly, the industry is characterized by decreasing extent to scale, DRS. The industry is characterized by DRS, i.e., marginal cost is higher than the average cost. So perfect competition will be possible there. Because you put the P equal to MC and MC is higher than AC. That's fine for perfect competition. In the national monopoly, the industry is characterized by IRS, which means MC is lower than AC. Perfect competition is not possible. It will lead to losses, and losers will leave the market, and over time, monopoly will happen naturally. So the outcome of that would be, if you have a standard monopoly, there must be barrier to entry. Others should not be able to enter, otherwise it will be profitable. It won't be money loser to enter. They will come in. For national monopoly, there is no barrier to entry. It's a voluntary case. They don't come in because they don't want to lose money. What else? Give me another difference based on what we have. What's the third one? A perfectly regulated standard monopolist is efficient. It's like perfect competition. A perfectly regulated national monopolist will lead to marginal cost pricing. As a result, it becomes efficient. We call that marginal cost pricing. If you regulate the standard monopoly, you regulate by marginal cost pricing. You try to find the marginal cost hitting the demand. That's where your goal is. So standard monopoly is regulated by marginal cost pricing, and marginal cost pricing is efficient. But national monopoly is regulated by average cost pricing. Which is inefficient. So even if you regulate the national monopoly, you're never going to end up with efficient outcome. Efficient outcome is not possible. It will lead to losses. Make sense? Okay. You can call the last one 4, but it's part of 3. You can call efficiency inefficiency. When I say it's efficient, it's regulated one, not unregulated. Unregulated non-regulated product basically is monopolies, that's inefficient. We call the regulated one efficient. That's like the competition. Regulated one inefficient because you put P equal to AC, not MC. Right? Make sense? Okay. That is the startup for lecture 10. Your final exam by now, in 2 weeks, you're done. It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday, right? Yeah. Wednesday 9 to 11:30. So by now, you're either celebrating or crying. One of these. Hopefully I'll celebrate. You might be celebrating the crying, you never know, right? Anyway, but by now you're done. It's done. Your first in line, right? That's like the first exam, it's done. Close to the first. Close to the first. I used to get the last one. I used to get December 22. They showed mercy this year, like at the beginning. Anyway, but they used to give me the worst time slot. I used to get the first one and the last one. Anyway, we'll do another question from national monopoly. Part A of that question is a replica of what we did. B and C are different, but A is a replica of what we just did. B, we didn't do it last session. That's based on this session. C is a different flavor of part C of last session. That is factory 1 with this marginal cost. That's factory 2 with this marginal cost. And that is factory 3 with this marginal cost. So low cost to high cost. First is low cost, third is high cost. That is margin of value, which is this one. Again, that's a total amount produced. Sometimes I put the T, sometimes I don't, but it's well defined down there. So no problem identifying it. And then we graph it. That's the margin value. And we have 3 plants. 1, 2, 3. Based on numbers given, that's 1, that's 2, that's 3. Right? The low cost is 1, that's the left side. The high cost is 3. And if you recall, we need to find total marginal cost. The total marginal cost looks like this. We need to find it numerically, but it's basically horizontal summation of those 3. So we'll be to the left of it. So step number 1, find total marginal cost. Let me make it steeper so we got space. That's a total margin cost. If you want to find the total margin cost, stack of these 3 horizontally. That's what we're going to do here. So we're going to find Q1. That is this one. We're going to find Q2. We're going to find Q3. Why do we do this? Because we need to add the quantities, not the marginal cost. That's the horizontal summations. So now we have these 3. That gives us QT. As soon as you add them up, you're adding them up for the same level of marginal cost called MCT. So change 1, 2, 3 to T as soon as you add them up. Make sense? So So now we're going to find MCT by taking common denominator. I guess this is 120. That will be 12. That will be 3. That's 2. That's 17. Right? That is that. So we get our total marginal cost function. That is step number 1. Find total marginal cost. Right? Make sense? Okay. So basically, numerically, we found that blue line. The next step is put it equal to MR, get the quantity, then go up there, find the price, and find margin value. That's the next step. So step number 2. Put MCT equal to MR. That is MCT. That is MR. That gives you how much you produce overall, maximize profit. How much is that? Anyone? What is QT? That is how much you produce overall to maximize profit.
It's 90.4.
90.4. So this is 90.4. Then I try to find the price. That's the price and marginal value. What's the price? 800. Right? That sounds like it. 180.8. Am I right there? 819.2. That sounds like it. What about the margin value? 4 times. 360. 640, a bit less. 638.
638, not close.
So that is 819, 38, 819.2, 380, 38, 338, 638. Point 4. That completes step number 2. Step number 3. Put MR that you found equal to MC1. That gives you Q1. Put it equal to MC2. That gives you Q2. Put it equal to MC3. That gives you Q3. What is Q2? What is Q2? Should be 15 and change. This is 6. Why did I put 6? This is 63.84, right? Divided by 10, not 100. That should be 1/4 of it, so I get 15 and change. 15 pounds? point? How much? 938. And that should be 10 and something. 10 point? 6.4? If you add them up, you should get 90.4. If you allow for rounding, if you add them up, you should get 90.4. So we're done with sort of part A. Graphically, you found Q1, that's 60, Q2, 15 and change, 10 and change. You saw it backwards. So this was 60, 63, I guess. Was it 63? 0.84 and so forth. That is this one. Let's do more. We can get the profit, which is how much revenue it gets, minus the cost of production in the 3 plants. So the profit here is, what's the price? 819. Price multiplied by quantity. That's the total revenue minus cost for the 3 plants. 563.84 squared, that's TC1. 20, 15.93 squared, that's TC2. And 60, 10.64. Power of 2, that's TC3. So I put the numbers in the cost, added them up. That's the problem. Right? Make sense? The TC1, TC5, 5Q1 squared, 20Q2 squared. The last one was 60? 30. I know I'm missing something. 30. This is 30. Remember, it's not the margin cost, the total cost. That is this one. What else can we do? We can calculate learn index for monopoly power, which is P minus MCP. The price is 819.2. What's the marginal cost? You may say I have to find it, but the marginal cost is equal to marginal value. They're the same. You're optimizing. So that is 638.4. That is your learn index for monopoly power. How much is it? What do you get?
0.22.
0.22. That should be equal to the inverse of elastic demand. So elastic demand should be, I guess, 4 and change. 4.44. What's the elastic demand?
4.5.
Like this. So that's rounded 5, right? That is this. So demand is pretty elastic. 4.5 basically means if you increase the price by 10%, the quantity decline by 45%. That's the minimum, right? So very elastic demand. The demand is elastic, not a lot of power there, right? Not a lot of power there. This is sort of Johnson & Johnson is on 0.25 somewhere there, right? But you don't expect lots of power from companies. Very few companies have a lot of power, unless you're pharmaceutical. Most companies have lots of substitute. People don't put up with higher prices, right? It's cheaper. So that is part A, all solved and more. We did part A and more. That is done. That's similar to what we did last lecture. B is the one that we left out. Calculate deadweight loss associated with monopolies. Too many lines here. Let's eliminate some of them. Oh, no, I need that one. Where did it go? See, I'm trying to go back and it just takes me to nowhere. Okay, let's see what we have to do. See, this individual marginal cost, we don't need them now. let me leave them. I may need them later, so I don't want to erase it and bring it back. This was A, this was B, this was C, this was D. Right? So we know from before the consumer will lose A and C. Right? We know the producer will gain A but loses D. Right? So we can easily calculate A, B, C, D and basically plug the numbers. And then from them calculate deadweight loss, which is C and D loss. Right? I can just calculate C and D, but sometimes the question asks me to calculate all the components of surplus, so let's calculate the whole thing. Although the question here didn't ask me. So I have to get A, C, and D to complete the equation. Can I get A or I need more? I need more. I need this bond. I need perfectly competitive equilibrium. I have one bond missing there, right? So I need perfectly competitive equilibrium. Put P equal to MC. That is MC. Put it equal to the price. Get the competitive outcome there. What do you got? I need this bond. Put MC equal to the price, that's MC, that's the price, get the competitive outcome. Was the MC correct? I think it was, yes, MC is fine. What do you got? What's the quantity produced in the competitive market?
110.4.
110. So take this one, put it in the demand, put it there. Find the price. What would be the price? What's the price? I need this one. $700?
779.
$779. So A, I'm fine with rounding a bit. Let's round them. We don't get decimals. Let's round them, right? Just simplify. Round them. Not to get decimals. It's fine. Okay. Just round them, not get decimals. What's the height? I need this area. What is 819,779? 40? That looks like 40. 40. So it will be 40 multiplied by 90. That's A. Alright? Make sense? I need C. The height is the same. What is the length? The length is 20. 20. 20. But divide by 2. Make sense? The rectangle. What is D? What is this area? That's the height of it. 779,638. 141. 141. 141 multiplied by 90. That is, sorry, 141 multiplied by how much? This is 20 as before divided by 2. Those are component of change in the surface. Right? And deadweight loss is these two added up. That's DW. So what's the DW? You lost C and D, which is equal to 181 multiplied by 20 divided by 2. Right? Make sense? That's your DW, which is equal to 1810. You lost C and D, which is this area. That is 1800 $10. Right? If this question was on the test, you could have just calculated the whole area at once. But often it asks, find the change in consumer surplus, find the change in producer surplus, verify welfare loss. So you have to go through all of it. Make sense? Right? Okay. The loss in surplus depends on how powerful the monopolist is. The bigger Lerner index, the more welfare loss. So here you may say welfare loss is limited. Yes, because the monopolist did not have a lot of power. Lerner index was low. The higher the Lerner index, the bigger welfare loss. Right? Okay, that is B. C. Last session we had a new plant opening with a constant marginal cost. We did that one, right? Here is the same three plants, but plant 2 cost goes up. Say, this plant now becomes higher cost. This say becomes 50. Say this becomes 50. That's what the question is saying. Suppose cost of one of the plants, in this case says plant number 2, goes up. What would happen? What do you think would happen? Without calculation, tell us what would happen. MC2 shifts up. It's not anymore 40 Q1, it's Q2. It's not 40 Q2, it's more. Shifts up. MC1, it's the same thing. Haven't changed. MC3 is the same thing. Hasn't changed. So what do you think will happen to the overall amount produced, the price, and the market, how production happened in 3 plants? Everyone, use your imagination. What do you think will happen? What do you think will happen to overall amount produced? Will it go up or down? I want to see if your intuition works or not. What do you think will happen to overall amount produced? Will it go up or down? Down. It will go down. So that's sort of makes sense. What about price? What about Q1? So this is correct. I will show you. This is correct. The main one is Q1, Q2, Q3. That's the one that's hard to figure out. What about Q1? Will it go up or down?
Remains the same.
Same. That's what it's saying. What about Q2?
Price or
Quantity. Quantities.
down?
Down. What about Q3?
Same.
And the correct answer is this will go actually up. This will go up. This will go down, although the whole thing goes down. That's the answer. The reason is, I'll show you how you solve it. It's not intuitive. You shouldn't use your intuition, you should use the formulas. Right? This is how you solve it. If MC2 goes up, what happens to MCT? It will go up, it will shift up. The component shifted up, the whole thing will shift up. In equilibrium, this is equal to MR. So what happened to MR? It will go up. The function hasn't shifted, it's the same function, but MR is higher. What happened to the quantity then? Down. Graphically, see? This is the graph. If this shift up, you move along, MR, the MR is lower now. The quantity will be lower to get the higher MR. Make sense? The quantity is lower. You shift along, margin value, you're producing less to go there. So this means this is lower. Since you produce less, the demand is downward sloping, the price will be more. That's sort of intuitive, right? Make sense? That's sort of, you figure it out. This is hard to figure out sometimes, but it's not. This is the way to solve it. Start with plant that haven't shifted. 1, 3. It's the same function. Should be equal to MR, but MR is higher. This should be higher too. But it's the same function. Hasn't shifted. For marginal cost to be higher, what should be Q1? It should be more. Q1 is more. Go to the third one. That hasn't shifted either. It's the same one. This is still 10 Q1. So if MR is higher, MC should be higher. The only way you get it if Q1 is higher, right? The same with MT3. This is the same one. This is still 60 Q3. So if you get higher MR, the only way MC goes up is for Q3 to go up. Then your conclusion would be Q2 must be lower because I know the whole thing is lower. Right? You can never start with this one because although MR is higher, this is not 30 anymore, this is more. So this number, which was 30 before, is more. The whole function has shifted. If the function shifts up, you cannot infer back from higher MR, higher Q. Make sense? It's not 30 Q2 anymore, it's something else. It's 40, 50, 60, you don't know that one, right? So by saying higher MR, you cannot infer Q. Make sense? Right? So if you want to infer about production, start with plants that haven't shifted. Identify the quantity, then the leftover becomes the plant that has shifted. Right? So that's the conclusion. Q1 goes up, Q3 goes up. As a result, Q2 must go down. If you don't believe me, and you should, change this one to 50 and solve it. It was 40. Shift it up to 50, you will get all the conclusion I have there. Alright? That verify the case. Okay? Okay. Let's go to more. This one, we haven't talked about it yet. We have done it. You should be able to answer B. True or false? Satellite radio is a good example of standard monopoly. True or false? Yes. Satellite radio is XM series. It was a duopoly, it became a monopoly. Right? It's a monopoly now. Is it a good example of standard monopoly or natural monopoly? Which one is it? Are there barrier to entry? Is there a law preventing someone sending a satellite to the sky? There's none. There's no barrier to entry. Fans don't come in because they lose money if they come in. All right? That's the best example of, best global example of national monopoly. It was a duopoly. They were both losing money. XM was losing money, Sirius was losing money. They went to the government, asked for merger, and their argument was, it's a national monopoly. We're both losing money. We'll both be bankrupt. Why didn't you stop the suffering? Let us merge, right? And the government agreed to it. But the second argument was, well, we know we become a monopoly, but we don't have monopoly power. Basically, demand is so elastic, we can't really raise the price, which is true. The government agreed with the creation of monopoly that would have happened anyway, right? It's a national monopoly. That is false. Satellite radio is the best example of natural monopoly. That's the reason the government allowed for it. If it was standard monopoly, the government would not have allowed for it, right? The government allowed for it because it will happen in time. They're both losing money. One will go bankrupt. You will end up with monopoly anyway, right? So why didn't you agree to it and the government agreed to it? Think about the other argument. Satellite radio is so elastic because there's so many alternatives to it, right? Say you have local radio. You have a window to open, right? Why would you need a satellite radio anyway, right? Anyone here subscribe to it? Hopefully you don't, because to me, it's completely stupid, right? It's like, why you subscribe to satellite? You don't live in a car, right? You drive there, why pay $50 a month or $30 a month to listen to someone in Hawaii? It's ridiculous, right? The only one who actually needs it is the truck driver, I guess. Like, they live in a car, right? They have to have something, they probably have to start it. But anyone else who subscribe to it is nuts, I think. No offense. Anyway, but don't tell me you subscribe to it because I think you're nuts. Tell me. Okay, good example of national monopolies, satellite radio. That's a global example. What is this picture represents? It represents the formation of national monopoly. Because you can see the marginal cost is below the average cost in the competitive equilibrium. That's the competitive equilibrium. That's the stage number 1 of creation of monopoly. So eventually, initially a perfect competition. In this case, the price ends up, is it 10.3? Hard to see, 10.3. The quantity ends up 37.5. What's the profit? These are firms competing on price, ending up there. How much money each firm makes? Well, let's see. That is the average cost. So the average cost is how much? The price is 10.3. The average cost is 16.7. That's the average loss. That is total. They're all losing money because it's increasing the time to scale, right? The marginal cost pricing means the price will be below the average cost. So that is big loss. These are losses the firms are incurring, which is equal to that one. So the losers slowly but surely will leave the market. They will leave the market, and then you have stage number 2. Stage number 2 is monopoly, but unregulated. This was perfect competition. So now this is gone. They all left the market. One standing, act like monopolists. They put MR equal to MC, decide this quantity, and set this price. So now we have a monopoly. The monopoly put MR equal to MC and choose the quantity 16.5 and set the price 31.6. Right? Make sense? Now this is the average cost though. See, that is the price. That's the price. Bigger pen. That's the price. But this is the average cost. The average cost is only 25.9. So the generate profit equal to 31.6 minus, I missed it, not that one. Too many lines there. I missed it. One more time. This is the price. This is the average cost. Make sense? Missed it there. The price is 31.6, I have it. The average cost is 22.6. And the quantity sold is 16.5. They're going to make tons of money. Lots of profit there. Right? Now the government comes in, regulates it, push the price down. How far do they go? Step number 3, monopoly. Now regulated. How far do you go? You reduce the price. How far do you go? Anyone? You go to where average cost hit the demand. That's average cost pricing regulation. You go all the way to this one. Right? So the price would be 18.5. The quantity would be 29.5. And the profit would be nothing because the price is 18.5 and the average cost is 18.5. No economic profit. Right? Makes sense? You wished you could have gone all the way there, but you can't because the firm will lose money. So although you did your best, you still have what we call deadweight loss equal to this area. That's a deadweight loss. So you can never achieve the efficient outcome because the firm will lose money. Right? Make sense? Okay. So based on that, we should be able to answer the question. If regulated, the price would be how much? 18.5. Am I right? Yes, 18.5. If unregulated, the price would be how much? I want to see, no, 31.6. If regulated, the quantity would be 29 pounds, and the profit would be 0. Right? Make sense? Okay. Okay, one more. We want to calculate social cost of monopoly, which is nothing but deadweight loss. So let's see how it works. This is similar to the one I just did, but it's fine. Another example. Numerically, though, it's the same as we did last session, so I can basically move on fast on it. That is marginal revenue. That is marginal cost. And monopoly put the two equal.
Professor, can I just quickly take a photo of the last one?
Which one?
The one that we did before.
Before?
Yeah, it is. Thank you. We'll
Okay.
work on
The monopoly put the two equal. So the quantity it produces will be 64 divided by 18. I recall from the last lecture this was 355.6. So this is the demand. That's the margin revenue. That was the marginal cost. And this was 355.6. Right? Make sense? So numerically it's the same question we did last lecture up to this point. And then he sets the price. What was the price? 35.6. The price would be 64 minus 0.08 multiplied by 355.6, which is 35.6. Versus perfect competition, which is this one. So we now have to find a perfect competition to get all the numbers lined up. If you put P equal to MC, get perfect competition, what do you get? So 64 plus minus 0.08Q equal to 0.02Q. So perfect competition is 640. That is 640. What would be the price in a perfectly competitive world? What will be the price? What do you get there? 12 pound? 12 pound? I know there's a 12 there. 8. And this pound, if you put this in the marginal cost, you're going to get 711, I guess. That would be last section. So based on the graph, this part was called A, this part was called B, this is C, this is D. The consumer loses A and C in surplus in the case of monopoly. And producer gains A, loses D, and the welfare cost will be C and D lost. Again, I'm finding all the components because you may need it, otherwise you could have done the whole thing at once. Right? So in this case, A is how much? Is 35.6 minus 12.8 multiplied by 365.6. That's it. C is 35.6 minus 12.8 multiplied by the distance. How much is this? 640 minus 355.6. That's the height. The length is 640 minus 355.6. How much? 200? 24.4. That is divided by 2 is your C. Right? And D is, the height is 12.8 minus 711. The length is the same as the one we have there. Divided by 2. I found all the components, so you can find the whole thing. Deadweight loss is you lose C and D combined, which should be this one. That if you combine both of them. But the question will not ask you to calculate them individually. That is a direct calculation of welfare loss. Which is the height. This is your height. The length divided by 2. Right? Make sense? Okay. The more monopoly power, bigger deadweight loss. So if monopoly has more power, they mark up more, you're going to end up with a bigger deadweight loss. So this deadweight loss is large, not small. Because lots of monopoly power there, lots of markup. See, the markup is huge. Big markup there. The bigger the markup, the bigger the index, the more monopoly power, the more deadweight loss. Right? Make sense? Okay. We're done with the first two. The last topic, process combination. Process combination we just started. The main process combination is covered in CO2 if anyone takes it. That's 3 lectures there, right? So a lot of stories there. We'll do very basic of it. We'll leave the big picture to the next version of CO2, micro, which is CO2. Monopoly by single pricing, although they take surplus from consumers, they still leave them with a lot of surplus. So it's not like they take everything from the consumer. They take some, but they leave lots of surplus left to consumers. See if I get rid of the whole thing. This is what monopolist does. They price at that, although they take away A from the consumer, that's established, but they leave this in surplus. So although some of the surplus A is taken away from consumer, well, there's still a lot of surplus left there. That's all the green area, right? If they price discriminate, they may be able to take that, some of it or all of it. So price discrimination attempt to take away the leftover surplus with a consumer. If you do it nicely, you can take all of it. Right? That's your goal. Or you can take at least some of it. Right? In the best case scenario, you can leave the consumer with nothing. But in the real world, you still leave them with some, even if your process discrimination. Anyway, there are three types of process discrimination, and variants of those is the first degree, second degree, and guess. Third degree. There are three variants of price discrimination, first, second, and third, and there are variants of those, but you can say others are sort of part of those. So in the real world there are more, but you can plug others within these three categories. The one we do here is only first degree. I talk about the other two, but we're not going to do it numerically. The first degree is also called perfect process discrimination. So it's called perfect process discrimination. This is also called perfect price discrimination. In a perfect price discrimination, you assume you know exactly what the consumer wants to pay. It's like putting questionnaire in front of people. If they want to buy something, asking them how much do you want to pay, and they're telling you exactly what they want to pay. Then what do you charge them? You charge them exactly what they say they want to pay. That becomes perfect price discrimination. Is it possible? Of course not. Just put a question in front of people, they all lie. They should lie, right? You should never say what you want to pay, because they charge you what they want to pay, right? They all underpriced. I don't like this much, right? This is garbage. How much do you want for it? Stuff like that. But they all undervalue, because they know if they value correctly, they will pay that one, right? Anyway, think about it. If you go to Tim Horton put a question in front of you, how much do you like for your first coffee in the morning? And you say, well, I'm addicted, I can't live without it, I want to pay $100. Well, I'm going to charge you $100. Are you unhappy then? Of course not. You wanted to pay $100, you paid $100. You're just neutral. You may swear, because you confessed. But those guys didn't really cause you a loss. They basically took away what you wanted to pay. So they left you with nothing. The second one comes, so this is the first one who goes to McDonald's. I want to pay $100. I charge them $100. Make sense? This is the second consumer. He said I want to pay $80. You charge them $80. You go all the way to here. The coffee is called, the coffee you're selling currently is $4. You go below. So you arrive at a consumer who said, I'm willing to pay $4. And that's the monopoly price you technically charge. Do you sell to that guy? Or not? Yes. So let's sell to that guy too. What about the next guy who says, I'm willing to pay $2? Do you charge to them? Do you sell to them as well or not? He's willing to pay a price lower than the monopoly. Do you sell to them? No? Why not? I know, but you still make money on it. He's still willing to pay more than the marginal cost. Make sense? You sell to them too. You make money on it. All the way to this guy. If your marginal cost hit the price at say $1, you're not going to sell less than $1 because the next unit will lose money on it. So if you can perfectly price discriminate, if you know exactly how much consumer wants to pay, you sell to everyone all the way to perfect competition. You sell all the way to this point. As a result, perfectly price discriminating monopolies is as efficient as perfectly competitive firm because they sell the same unit. The only difference is, in a perfect competition, this is left to the consumer. In a perfectly price discriminating monopoly, nothing is left to the consumer. All this area becomes part of the producer surplus. That's the only difference. So, perfectly price discriminating monopoly is efficient, although nothing is left to the consumer. At the aggregate level, is efficient. It produces the same thing as perfect competition. Right? Okay. Obviously, it's not possible. You cannot perfectly price discriminate if you don't know what people want to pay. So this is completely hypothetical. In the real world, no one does perfect price discrimination because you don't know what consumer wants to pay. Yeah.
Okay, so is it something like, you know, the maximum amount that the consumer is willing to pay, so like that's what you want to charge?
You charge on that. The willingness to pay, the maximum willingness to pay. When I say willingness to pay, that's basically maximum. Because if you were willing to pay 100, you were willing to pay 0 as well. That's sort of obvious, right? So when I say willingness to pay, that's the maximum willingness to pay. Make sense? So if you pay the maximum willingness to pay, nothing is left to you. All the surplus goes to consumer. Sorry, producer. First degree is impossible because you don't know what consumers want to pay. In the real world, you have second degree. Second degree is selling by units. Say, if you buy 1 tire, it's $200. If you buy 4 tires, it's 600 overall, i.e. 150 each. Why? Why 1 tire 200? In 4 tire lots is only 150. That's the price discrimination. You get 2 prices. Right? What's the goal there? What's the idea behind that price discrimination? 1 tire is 200, 4 tires is 150 each. Why?
Yeah, you usually buy tires in sets.
Well, if you buy 1 tire, you must have a blown tire. That's an emergency. They charge you full price. Emergency means you will buy it anyway. You have a blown tire. If someone's willing to wants to buy 4 tires, there's no emergency there. They're shopping around. The tires are wearing off. They have time. No emergency. They don't charge you full price. You don't know who you are, but you identify yourself by buying 1 or 4. So in this case, in the second degree, which is selling by units, you don't know who consumers are, but they self-select. They select 1 or 4 based on willingness to pay. Make sense? So second degree is sort of obvious. You sell by units. That's also called, in the real world, they don't call it second degree, they call it block pricing. That's very popular. Very popular. Almost every firm does it. Even if you go to Walmart, I've seen it. They say 1 yogurt is $3, 3 is $8. Stuff like that. They have it. Who buys 3 yogurts, by the way? I know some people with big families do it, but you must be very price sensitive to do it. You must be willing to actually take it, store it, you're basically price sensitive. It's for them. The ones who are actually willing to buy extra, store it just for the price. They're price sensitive, right? You give them a discount, others, you grab one and leave, they don't get a price sensitive. They're not price sensitive, you don't give them a discount. In the real world, price sensitive means cheap. I shouldn't say cheap. Price sensitive basically means you really care about the price. Right? But technically means cheap. Anyway, I do it too. To cheap out that time. The most popular price discrimination, third degree, when you identify people by characteristics and charge based on characteristics. Say, if you're young, that's the price. If you're old, that's the price. That's selling by characteristics. If you're local students, that's the tuition fee. If you're foreign students, that's the tuition fee. That's the third degree. You classify students, you charge in accordance. BBA, that's the price. Art and science, that's the price. That's the selling by characteristics. Some of the price discriminations are third degree but hard to say. Say, Tuesday movies are half price. Why? Why Tuesday movies are half price? Who watches movie on Tuesdays? Yeah, you watch. I do too. But if you do it, you are very price sensitive. When you do it, we're actually cheap at that time. You're basically looking for the worst day of the week to watch a movie. It basically means you're really price sensitive. You don't go to watch a movie on a normal day. You require worst day of the week, right? I know some others do it, but it's designed for them. It's designed for people who have low reservation price. You don't know who they are. But if you're willing to go and choose the worst day of the week to watch a movie, you're price sensitive, more likely than not. That's the third degree. You don't know who people are, we characterize by willingness to pay. Tuesdays, they have that characteristic. They're cheap, I should say, right? I've done it too. Anyway, one more. If you, well, Walmart, not Walmart, McDonald's sell coupons. They send coupons. That's a price discrimination. If you show the coupon, that's one price. If you don't show it, that's a higher price. Make sense? What that price discrimination is that one? Is it first, second, or third? That's third. Second is obvious. You're not selling by unit there. It's the third. Why is it third? Who shows a coupon? Price sensitive. Price sensitive people definitely will show the coupon. Right? A lot of people won't go to McDonald's without the coupon. It's for them. You identify people who won't go to McDonald's without the coupon. You give it to them. You drive them to McDonald's. Others may use it as well, but that's the part of it. If you buy a ticket from Expedia, they ask for your characteristics. You put name, gender, age, stuff like that, and the location, and they give you a price. Right? So you can see two people asking for the same ticket getting two different prices. Why? Because the characteristic identify the price. That's the third degree. Sometimes there are so many characteristics involved, it looks like everyone getting a different price. So it looks like first degree, but it's not first degree. They don't know how much you want to pay. They just classify you based on what you put online there. That is called dynamic pricing, which is technically a version of third degree. I read an article, Toronto Star. Not very reliable, but they did some research. They found out location is the most important differentiator. If you put yourself in as Canadian, you will get 20% higher price on average than American. So you can't change your name, you can't change your gender, this stuff are on the ticket, you can't change them. When you create Expedia, have a fake location. Don't put Toronto, that's a high reservation price. Not a lot of competition in Canada, they give you a high price. Put someone in US, more competition there, more alternative there, they classify you there, right? They give you a discount up to 20%. And I think in the research it said, don't put yourself in big cities in US. Don't put New York or say Los Angeles. Put somewhere in Ohio, like, I don't know, Columbus, Pittsburgh, somewhere there, right? Somewhere mid-US. Detroit. I don't know. Third and second are very interesting. Specifically third, there's a lot of stories there. Lots of stories there. They're all CO2. I'm going to do a bit of first degree. Just a bit of it. It's not really practical to do anyway. Give you an idea what it does. After the break. Let's take a break. We'll do only first degree. We're not going to do second and third.